When the original Simucube ActivePedal was released around a year ago, it was widely praised as one of the very best sim racing pedals ever. In my review, I called the ActivePedal an absolute game changer that completely reimagined what it is to be a sim racing pedal. The one downside of the ActivePedal was its immense cost, which was over $2,000 or euros for a single pedal. Now in 2024, Simucube has had a year or so with the ActivePedal, and it has addressed this price concern with the release of the brand new ActivePedal Pro. This is a cheaper sim racing pedal which offers almost the exact same functionality as the original ActivePedal at a slightly lower price point. Simucube sent this pedal over for us to test and review, and after a few months with the pedal, here are my final thoughts on whether the ActivePedal Pro does enough in terms of price to make it more of a viable option for a wider range of sim racers. Stripping this pedal back to its core functionality, the ActivePedal Pro is a force feedback enabled sim racing pedal. It houses an internal ball screw motor that generates force in a relatively similar way to a direct drive racing wheel. As you spend time on track in any sim racing title, the in-game forces that are generated and normally sent to your racing wheel are also sent to the ActivePedal Pro. This is then converted into physical force feedback, which moves, vibrates and rumbles the pedal in real time. The result is a pedal that can rumble and vibrate as your brakes start to lock or as you lose traction. This force feedback really does elevate your sim racing experience. Not only are you now getting a more well-rounded force feedback experience with forces present in both your pedals and racing wheel, but the forces that you feel through the ActivePedal can actually help you better understand your car's behavior on track and in turn help you drive more efficiently and potentially faster. I'm not someone who often says upgrading any part of your sim racing setup will help you find lap time, as this can be a really expensive trap to fall into. However, the ActivePedal really goes above and beyond a standard load cell or hydraulic pedal and can, in some scenarios, help you become a better driver. Now, I have mentioned that this ActivePedal Pro is cheaper than the original, now named ActivePedal Ultimate. However, those hoping for a truly affordable sim racing pedal may still be disappointed. The cost of this pedal is €1,400 in Europe, $1,700 in the States, and £1,470 in the UK. That is still pretty darn expensive for a single sim racing pedal, despite it being an effective price reduction of around €500 or dollars. This does now mean that you can buy a complete Simucube pedal set consisting of the ActivePedal Pro, a Simucube throttle and base plate for under $2,500 or euros, or around £2,000, rather than much closer to $3,000 or euros with the original ActivePedal Ultimate. Now, if you previously watched or read my original ActivePedal review, a lot of the information in this video is going to sound pretty familiar, and that is because the ActivePedal Pro is very much a similar piece of hardware. There are some key differences from the ActivePedal Ultimate which do go a long way towards bringing this pedal's cost down and making it slightly more affordable. Comparing the AP Pro and Ultimate side by side can help us quickly see some similarities and differences. From a design perspective, you can clearly see that both pedals have been built by the same set of designers. The overall appearance and high build quality is the same across both pedals. The ActivePedal Pro arrives in some of the highest quality packaging across all of sim racing in a very similar way to the Ultimate pedal. And this reinforces the premium nature of any Simucube purchase. When you take the pedal out of its protective casing, you'll notice some small design flares which are not present on the cheaper ActivePedal Pro compared to the more premium Ultimate. For example, the see-through panel that was directly above the motor isn't there on the Pro pedal, despite the panel still being in the same place. There are fewer orange accents throughout, and the pedal arm is now all black and features slightly fewer adjustment points. You can no longer flip the pedal arm mounting point or adjust its length. Finally, the pedal face is different, opting for more of an octagonal design with the Simucube logo embossed onto it rather than the dimpled appearance of the Ultimate pedal. Despite these differences, the AP Pro still uses the same materials in its construction, is pretty much the same size, and roughly weighs the same, as well as being mounted in the exact same way. Moving away from the physical design and onto the features, things are equally similar, with some core differences. The overall experience you get from the Pro is almost identical to the Ultimate. You get the same level of almost infinite control over software-controlled elements such as pedal travel, vibration and force feedback. All of the core effects from the original pedal make a return in the ActivePedal Pro. These include the same ABS, traction control, G-force, brake threshold and lock-up effects. This pedal can be configured either as a throttle, brake or clutch, which does affect which forces are active. Ultimately, that core functionality that really made the ActivePedal Pro Ultimate so special is in the ActivePedal Pro, and you get just as much of an immersive experience with the Pro as you do with the Ultimate. Now, of course, with a big price reduction, there are some differences, and these differences may or may not impact your decision on which pedal is right for you. Due to the fewer adjustments to the pedal arm, you can't really mount the Pro pedal inverted like you could with the Ultimate, and you have no pedal offset adjustment. One of the more significant differences is that the ActivePedal Pro has a maximum of 110 kg of brake pressure, while the Ultimate pedal has a whopping 170 kg. Realistically though, this won't affect most sim racers, and to put this in perspective, I typically only use around 55 to 60 kg of pressure, so this difference was completely irrelevant to me and would not affect my buying decision, although with some sim racers this may be more of an issue. Other differences include a slightly more limited warranty of just 3 years compared to 5 years with the Ultimate pedal, and one of the bigger differences for me, you also need to have an individual power supply for each Pro pedal you're using, whereas the Ultimate pedal can utilise a single PSU for up to 3 pedals. Now this may seem like a really small difference, but the practicality of using multiple PSUs for multiple pedals can really impact your cabling, as you now require space for multiple large power bricks and additional plug sockets. If you're choosing to use 3 ActivePedal Pros, that's triple the number of PSUs, triple the number of power connections. Cable management has never been my biggest forte. However, things do start to get really messy when I'm using multiple active pedals. With both an Ultimate and a Pro configured on my sim rig currently, I have 2 big PSUs sitting under my sim rig. I then need an Ethernet switch to connect the data cables for each pedal, which then routes to the Simucube link hub, which is required to send data to your PC. The link hub connects to your PC via a USB-C cable, and while these active pedals do offer an incredible upgrade in immersion and performance, I do really miss the days of using a passive load cell pedal without any need for an individual power supply. Talking of cable management, the rear of the ActivePedal Pro is very similar to the Ultimate. It features a power port, a data port for the Simucube link hub, a power button, and 2 data ports that let you connect passive pedals such as the Simucube throttle or a pedal from Husingveld. The only thing missing from the rear of the ActivePedal Pro compared to the Ultimate is the extra power port that the Ultimate uses to daisy chain multiple active pedals, as this functionality isn't available in the Pro. Now when it comes to mounting the AP Pro, there are identical slot gaps to the Ultimate pedal. These let you bolt directly through the top, and when paired with the Simucube baseplate or pretty much any 80/20 sim rig, these pedals are incredibly easy to mount and adjust. I did mention there are fewer physical adjustments with the Pro pedal. Gone are the adjustments to the pedal arm that are found on the Ultimate pedal. We're now just left with a couple of adjustments to the faceplate that include angle and height adjustments. You can also remove the faceplate and swap it with any compatible Simucube faceplate, such as the one from the throttle pedal. Then you have the software adjustments, which are handled almost identically to the Ultimate. You need to use the Simucube Tuner software to adjust any software settings with the AP Pro. When you first boot up the Tuner software, you'll need to perform a firmware update, followed by configuring your pedal. This process tells the software which pedal you're using, along with setting the rest position of the pedal itself, and you can see that as I adjust the rest position in the software, the pedal adjusts in real time. Once you've configured these base settings, you have a whole world of adjustments at your fingertips. The first setting you'll want to configure are how the pedal feels, and these settings dictate the pedal travel, preload, max force, and the force curve. These are the biggest setting changes you can make and are essentially equivalent to making physical adjustments to more traditional pedals. Once the pedal feel is adjusted, you can add damping or friction effects and adjust the bump stop feel. I personally prefer to turn the damping and friction effects off, but they can be really useful for further fine tuning exactly how the pedal feels as you lean on it. Now, we can move on to setting up the force feedback effects, and these are the settings that you're really paying for with the ActivePedal Pro. Now, I currently have the AP Pro configured as my throttle and my original Ultimate setup as my brake, and this decision changes which effects are available to tweak. When I switch my AP Pro to the brake, you'll find a range of extra settings open up, just as you can find on the Ultimate. Now, some sim racing software can give you settings which are hard to understand, making configuring the best settings a little bit tricky, but I'm happy to report this problem is not present with the Simucube tuner software. Each setting is individually labelled and is really easy to understand. You have complete control over which effects you enable and disable, along with adjustments to each setting individually. If you want to feel vibrations as your traction control kicks in iRacing or ACC, but you don't want to feel any G-force effects, you can do that. If you'd rather feel the ABS activating, but you don't want to feel motor effects that are present from your car's RPM, you could do that too. Now, my personal preference in terms of settings is to enable the G-force effects, which simulate speed by moving the pedal position closer or further from your foot as your speed changes. I then enable the motor vibration on both pedals to allow me to feel more immersed by feeling increased vibrations as the engine revs higher. With my current configuration of the AP Pro as my throttle and the Ultimate as my brake, I divide up the effects between the two pedals. I enable the traction control effects on my throttle and the ABS on my brake. If you only have one single active pedal, you can turn on both TC and ABS to function on the same pedal to really maximize your immersion and value from just having a single pedal. Now, throughout my time with both Simucube active pedals, I did use a few different configurations. My preferred and current setup uses both active pedals, as I mentioned, with the Ultimate as my brake and the Pro as my throttle. However, I did try the Pro as my brake alongside the passive Simucube throttle, and I'm super happy to state that the Pro's performance is on par with that of the original active pedal. No matter which pedal you choose, the force effects and force feedback is the same across both pedals. Each effect feels pretty identical when configured the same, and the immersion and real-time feedback that you get while sim racing is just as good with the Pro as it is with the Ultimate. This isn't a massive surprise, as the core of the AP Pro is identical to the Ultimate, meaning there shouldn't be much difference in the performance. Now, I'm not going to dive too deep into what each effect does in detail, as I did already cover these in my original ActivePedal review. Now, I'll leave a link to that in the description or in the card in the top corner, so go ahead and check that out if you really want a deep dive on what each force feedback effect does. And that brings me nicely onto my final thoughts on the ActivePedal Pro. Ultimately, the Pro matches the high performance bar set by the original ActivePedal Ultimate. You really aren't losing anything in terms of performance, with the key differences including the lack of inverted mounting, slightly fewer physical adjustments, really not taking anything away from this pedal's appeal. There are two big downsides with the AP Pro. The first being the reduction in maximum force to 110 kg, but despite sounding like a significant downgrade, this really shouldn't affect most sim racers. After all, other popular sim racing pedals do sit below this value, with pedals such as the Fanatec Club Sport V3s offering just 90 kg in max force. Now, the second downside is the inability to daisy chain the PSU when using multiple pedals. This sounds fairly inconsequential, but in reality it can cause a pretty big adjustment when it comes to setting these pedals up, with more power ports, cables and space required to accommodate multiple pedals. If you're just choosing a single active pedal, then this isn't a problem. However, with a saving of around $400, 400 euros, the AP Pro is a good step in the right direction of making force feedback pedals much more accessible. I don't think we're quite there yet in terms of truly optimizing the price of force feedback sim racing pedals, and this premium price tag does still exclude this pedal from those looking for a better performance to price ratio. The force feedback effects and endless customization are still a complete game changer in the world of sim racing pedals though, and for those looking for the most immersive sim racing experience, but fancy saving a few $100, I highly recommend the ActivePedal Pro.